All right, YouTube. So we got a little bit of a treat today. Just in case you had not had enough of the dynamic duo, Batman and Batman, or Robin and Robin, depending on what we're discussing of the day. I know sometimes it may slap a little harder. You have got myself, Uni X DBS, as well as EspiraTCG, aka today known as Wheezy. Oh, I guess it would GoHeezyF baby. Yeah, GoHeezyF baby. I'm sitting there at GoHeezyF baby and Ramp God. I'm gonna try to just get a different nickname every time we're here, but right now I think a rap theme is where it's at. So yeah, we are at GoHeezyF baby and Ramp God. Now, the topic I want to get into today is going to be just the two regionals that have gone by. There's a whole lot of info to digest, and I think we got to talk about that as soon as possible before it gets stale. We've got Texas coming up in a week, so there is no time like the present. So yeah, I guess I just wanted to hit a couple of quick plugs, and I'm going to pass that over to Espira because we got to make sure that everything gets, cross-pollinated and whatnot. We would not have all these official announcements if you had not been on the Facebook group where all this official stuff happens. So go down in the description, follow that link. We got the discussion group where we talk about all this stuff for better or worse. We've got Discords. We have got just like Facebook pages. We've got plenty of places to look at this content for this game. So look in the description, all the links are there, dead serious. And now, without trying to blow up that section any further, what have you got to add in, Mr. George, sir?
Well, thank you very much for the handoff. Discount Juice World on my end.
Oh!
We've got on my end, we have your typical tournament content, guys. Check out the Twitch stream EspiraTV for anything in regards to playing interesting and fun decks, primarily blue, but I dabble a little bit sometimes. And if you guys want to check VOD content of me where I have discussions, breakdowns, and anything in between, my YouTube EspiraTCG will cover that content as well.
Yeah, so he can't really tell because he can't see my camera right now, but I definitely just put up a hood and put all my hair away. So that's the kind of vibe we're on right now. Anywho, yeah, he's right on that. So we had two different regionals. They happened back to back, so it's kind of wild because when that happens, there's not a great amount of time to change up your strategy severely. Now, some people will have just simply the collection to do so, and so they can make pivots between, one day and another day, especially if they're, sign up for both and just have the card stock to do it. Some people don't. But I have scavenged my cheeks off trying to find enough data to make a video like this. So we actually have the top 8 of each one. I have a little bit further information. Carta Magica put up a nice little infographic. When it came to the next one though, Core TCG, that was a little harder for me to find. But what we have got here is in Carta Magica's day 1, pretty interesting. All the decks here I pretty much expected to be here when I was calling out decks in the just little prediction video I did. But first place was King Piccolo. Second, new Yellow Trunks from Realm of the Gods. Third, new UI Goku from Realm of the Gods. Fourth, Gogeta Zeno. Fifth, Gogeta Zeno. Sixth, Sin Shinron. Seventh, Mil Janimba. 8, Set 11 Broly. So that's Broly BR. That's the terror, the scourge of aggro. Notable mentions is that in the rest of the top 16 for that tournament, we were able to find more copies of Sun Goku from the new set, another Sin Shenron, 2 Android 16 players, and yeah, I think there was a Mill deck too. So it's pretty varied, and a Soul Striker, because I know I did a profile for Soul Striker. So most of these decks are kind of meta hitting. They're just things that we expected. But what are your initial thoughts on that, just that breakdown in terms of expectations and how it panned out?
I think in general it had a very good smattering of, like you said, what we were expecting between new and old. U7 Goku was the most represented deck across the entirety of the weekend, so there's no surprise on that front. And there was good a smattering of rogues still. A16 doing incredibly well in the right hands. It's still one of those strategies that with the right players who have enough experience with that can get there, so it's cool to see them there. But in terms of what we're seeing with top 8 and top 16 most consistently, you have your big hitters. You got Gogeta Xeno, which everyone knew were still going to be a threat going into this next format. Sin Shenron, super well poised now that Fu's not around and just in a really good spot. And then we have your smattering of, solid new decks. You got Trunks, you got U7, so they all do incredibly well. With KP doing really well. Now, mind you, there is the caveat that, KP is piloted by some of the stronger players in the card game. And when we're talking about Carda's event specifically, Marcel Russell, who's arguably one of the best aggro players to ever play the game. So there's that fact in its own right. But in terms of what we're seeing, I think very typical, very standard. I don't think anyone is shocked by any of the real showings. I mean, maybe Milnemba, but we might be able to talk about that a little bit afterwards. So in general, a very good showing. And I think if you had to give, players, what were they expecting to see? I think a lot of those expectations were met with this first tournament.
I definitely agree on every point there. I do want to double down on the fact that King Piccolo is one of those decks where it is old, but it is quite literally still gold. But at the same time, you do need the pilot. There's 10% of the players that probably could pick up this deck and just go hard with it. But if you're not within that echelon of just understanding of the game, he's not King Piccolo when you play him. He's Prince Piccolo, maybe even Knight Piccolo. He's not quite at that part in the royal court. But yeah, it's kind of wild. And Gogeta Zeno is hilarious for me for taking up 2 spaces in this top cut, because there were only so many targets for this recent ban list, and Gogeta Zeno was a main focus, and it just didn't lose anything at all. In fact, it gained a card, because SS Trunks is disgusting. Shout out to the homie and fellow teammate and friend, just Daryl, but Daryl and Zach in my little group chat, they got smacked by the same dude. Is it Brandel? Yes, Brandel. Shout out to you for doing well, topping both days, but getting 5th in day 1. This dude literally was T1 thwarting, turn 2, and then just started going ridiculously wild with the Trunks and an Overrealm. And if you really think about that, going second, that's a leader swing, a double strike swing, and then turn 2, that's a leader swing, 2 swings from the Trunks, a 6-drop Overrealm, and then thwarting coming in for closing. What is that? Literally, what is that? That's 6 attacks on a turn and way more damage than that, and that's a lot to just put up with. He actually ended Zach on stream on turn 2 when Zach went first with Soul Striker. I was sick. But yeah, Espira's right. There's really just, I don't think day 1 really killed any of our expectations or surprised us. It just kind of showed us that, there are certain parts of the meta that are still established, but we do have some contenders from the new set that can creep into that, which is always a good place to be. You don't want the new set to just completely meteor the dinosaurs out of the game, because that's power creep to the max, and we're not Konami. But you also don't want the new set to come out dead on arrival, or what we call Sand Showdown. And that really is something we try to avoid as much as possible. So that is the first one, but then you have the second one, and the second one is a little weird. I had to fact check the second one a whole bunch of times, because as I was trying to compile data for it, I was like, are you sure? And once I started getting sources from multiple people, because really, it really was just me reaching on me hey, you played, is this true? Is this true? Trying to look at different people's streams. It was a lot of work, but luckily my job sucks, and I have plenty of ample time to do these things while I'm at my job. So hopefully none of them watch this. I don't think any of them watch this. But I get all my work done. We're looking at Core TCG, looking at the top 8 being Android 18. We saw a really weird game. It's not a weird game, no, shout out, because Joey is a really consistent player, but I just have to be inside of his head to know the logic on pushing through the Oceanus, because I'm not sure if he walks away from that game without that W, if he didn't put, I don't know, but I wasn't in the situation. I don't know exactly how that matchup is, but he said himself that he felt that he misplayed crucially to give himself the L on that one. So it is what it is. That's another conversation completely. But we got Android 18 pulling into first place, the flawless execution. Shout out to Team Berserk for bringing home a top 4 finish and then a first place finish in both tournaments. But also shout out to PPG for literally doing the same thing. They actually just reversed themselves. PPG took number 1 in Carta Magica and then number 3 in Core TCG, and Team Berserk did the same thing in the opposite order. But yeah, we had King Cold at second. Huge surprise. Green out here doing weird green things, occasionally cropping up, like weeds, which are also green. We've got King Piccolo in third place. SS4 Bardock in 4th place. That sounds like an alliteration like SS4 Bardock in 4th place. I don't know how that happened. Props to you. That's crazy. We got Bulma in 5th place. I don't know where this came from. And again, these are not disses. I'm just saying, like, again, I had to double and triple check because I was just like, what? Wait, huh? Set 1 Frieza in 6th place. Android 16 in 7th place. New Trunks and Vegeta in 8th place. And then, in no particular order in the top spaces, we also had another showing of King Piccolo. We had the boy on the other end of the screen here getting a clean 10th place with Janemba Mill. Oddly enough, this tournament had no Sin Shinrons in top 8. Now, there was a Sin Shinron in top 16, I believe, but none in top 8, and that's crazy. Followed by, you know, we have a Soul Striker. There was one in each tournament. There's a Vegeta and Babidi leader in top 16. I don't know what you were running. I don't think I saw you on stream, but dude, go ahead. Like, literally go off, King. Like, that is absolutely wild and out of pocket. Cooler Mill, because this tournament had more Mill than I think I saw on day 1. Like, in the top 16, we literally have Android 18, Janemba, and Cooler, the 3 horsemen of the punish you for playing the game correctly apocalypse. Like, did you draw a card? Cool, everything's according to plan. Like, it just hurts. And oddly enough, in this one, we actually only had one, if I'm not mistaken, one Gogeta Zeno. And the crazy part about day 2 is, if all my information is correct, we didn't have a single U7 Goku in the top 16 cut. Like, that is absolutely wild. So the part that kind of gets me about this, before I ask George about his thoughts, is that day 1 and day 2 seem like almost different formats. We had some people that crossed over in terms of decks. Like, you know, King Piccolo showed up. I mean, I guess Trunks from the new set showed up. But outside of that, like, I don't know. Like, I need to hear what you think about this one.
I mean, so you're really hit it on the head when you're talking about different formats, because the way I would describe it is that Saturday was effectively what I would expect a meta to be in a best of 3 tournament. Whereas Sunday with the core event is how I expect most best of 1 regionals to go. It's one of those scenarios where, like, I have a lot of experience with best of 1 regionals, just because, like, we've been doing this webcam world thing for 2 years. So, you know, if Saturday was the world where everything happened the way we expected it to happen, that's under the basis of, you know, a competitive mindset of, like, best of 3 regular regionals. Whereas Sunday felt a lot more like, okay, yeah, this is still best of 1 webcams, because, like, Majin Vegeta, like 3 different mill decks, like it's just the meta lent itself more to, like, okay, yeah, people brought decks that do extremely well in best of 1s and are able to either cheese out wins or play a strategy that people won't be ready to side out into. So I've been saying for a while now that best of 1 is effectively its own format of Dragon Ball. You can't expect it to play the same way as a best of 3 or even best of 1 pre-side, because of the linearity of a lot of these strategies. So that's the biggest difference between those two, I would say, is that there's a stark difference, and it felt like the group on Saturday were committed to playing their competitive decks and the way that the competitive meta is meant to be played if you really give it a thought, versus the ones that are Sunday, I'm like, we're just gonna YOLO this event with the deck that I like to play, or maybe it's the only deck I have, and, like, we're just gonna run with it. So I think that's the biggest, like, shift between the two of them. And they, like, if I had to ever give a case study on, like, what to expect when we're talking about differences of what a best of 1 meta looks like versus what, like, a best of 3 meta looks like, I would just pull out these 2 events, which is kind of weird that they both ended up in best of 1 land, but, like, hey, the fact that it turned out that way is super funny.
Yeah, and it's actually just really crazy, because somewhere off in the dark dimension, Reboot SS2 Gohan is like, I got banned for this. Like, I got banned so that this could happen. Like, y'all thought I was the only problem in best of 1 just so that people could just get milled out all day. Like, that's absolutely crazy. No, granted, mill has always been a part of the format, but it does not hurt that one of the most anticipated to be played decks is a self-mill deck. That definitely brought this to the forefront, because now you have a deck that, on top of having the variance of milling itself out, has to literally play differently against you. Like, of course, they're not just going to mill themselves out willy-nilly, but now it just becomes blatantly obvious that, okay, I literally have to put around 20 cards in the graveyard and this dude's trying to mill me out, which means that it's effectively, of course, like it's kind of weird. I think it's definitely a weird space for them to be in. There's lots of nuances that get in. You don't really have to start milling them. You can let them do half the work. Like some people are like, oh, if they mill me, I'm gonna go off. No, you dummy. I'm not just gonna set you up with 20 cards. But at the same time, if I mill you fast, you're gonna stop. Like if I mill you far enough on your front side, you're not gonna want to use your only +1 ability on your front side to draw 1 mill card. There's lots of nuances. It is interesting. I am noting that it looks, I would say that aggro was less popular on day 2, but Majin Vegeta is up there. Unless we were seeing some new mid-range Majin Vegeta, I'm gonna assume it was quite punchy. Gogeta Zeno like had 1 placement. It's the same dude, so I'm not sure if like the tournament was just different or whether this guy is just like Gogeta Zeno Jesus right now. Fun thing. I've been talking to him. He only had 1 SSG Trunks, so y'all just were getting like domed. Okay. Like y'all were getting domed. And just to add insult to injury, it's not like a choice, it was just like supply. So like this man just went through the tournament and like Gogeta Zeno guys were like, bro, rep, and he was like, yes sir, and just faded people. So yeah, that was pretty interesting. But it's really weird. Going into the fest, I feel like day 1, like you said, was such a good indicator on where we could think the format was going. But looking at Texas, day 2 just completely threw like a bomb into any collective just mindset of the format, I think. Because now, like I would expect to go into Texas looking at like the first day of regionals. But now I can't ignore that we might just go to Texas and you may face 4 mill decks in a 6-7 round tournament, and that's scary. Like that is honestly scary. 2 out of these 3 mill decks are blue, and a mill deck backed by Baby Hatch is a scary mill deck because there is a turn where they will just buy themselves a full turn, and if you're just in the wrong place, numbers could just not work out in your favor. So it's a hard knock life. You're gonna have to make a really weird side deck, and the weird part about it is that you can't side for mill. There's actually only like really 1 anti-mill card in the game as far as I know, and it's locked to Shinron. So the only way to really kill mill is to attempt to beat their faces faster, but accelerating through your deck plays into their plan. Mill decks are made to go long, and so you're not really going to be sitting there. And the worst part is they're different. Janemba kind of hits you with a slow roll of consistent mill. Android 18 may just burst your entire like bottom. I don't know how many. You just have a big board and they just kind of go off, and then you're like, well, I invested too much to the board, and that played into their. It's weird. Cooler, for instance, you can't even go wide against Cooler because the more targets you give them to like minus, the more cards you're losing off the top of your deck.
Yep.
That being said, though, Red is fairly good at manipulating battle power. So if you just try to go skinny but tall, Cooler will probably out-combo you just off of effect power alone. But if you try to go wide, you're allowing them to minus 2 or 3 cards on your side of the board, and you just lose 4 cards on top of your deck. And you're like, well, ouch. So we're kind of at a space where playing against Mill is not very fun, but it could very well be a large thing. I was hoping that day 1's results discouraged people from playing Mill, but then we got people like George out here just we're gonna bleep that out, straight booling for no reason. So it kind of be what it is. But it just puts me in a weird headspace because I don't know what to expect for Texas. Like either tournament could be a very good portrait of what we see in Texas.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with Texas is it's best of 1 pre-side. The most notable thing about these regionals is that they were hard best of 1, and strategies like Majin Vegeta, like Mill to a lesser degree, but still very much true, do still get hated out. They don't have you don't really have anti-Mill cards, but you have blue hate cards that hurt Janemba a lot, right? Like you have, if you can lean on anything that really applies pressure while also deals with the way that Janemba is defensively, it is very hard for it to come back. So it's going to be weird because I think Texas will be the first showcase of where if you see the core regional meta try to take on the tournament, how much a sideboard will mitigate that reality. So on that front, it'll be a real test. Now, I think we will see a spike of mill because I'm not blind to the fact that me doing well with the mill deck motivates more people to do it because I have a high visibility as a player. And then on top of me doing it, it's reinforced by the fact that there are like 3 other topping milling decks within the weekend. So the fact that that has happened means that I think there will be a representation of mill going into that tournament. However, it's a sided tournament, and just like Cell Surge had a really tough time in best of threes when we had a tournament that was focused around that. I think a lot of these best of one strategies will have a hard time. Will they still be there? I think yes, because I think people see best of ones and not realize how much of a difference the sideboard really will make in those matchups. But I do think it'll be a great test to see what happens, but who knows? Whereas I think most people would lean towards the meta we saw with the Carta tournament. People are going to try wild things. There's a lot of people playing this tournament. It's over 200 players, I think, for both tournaments, with the PPG one even maybe being close to 300 plus, if I remember correctly. So with a huge field like that, you can definitely expect variance. So Mill's going to probably make a showing, so make sure you have your sideboard pieces that help deal with Janemba. And in general, this is where the sideboard is going to shine, guys. Your ability to be able to take those sideboard pieces and help in these best of one situations. Doesn't mean people aren't going to take weird decks, because maybe someone takes a weird best of one deck that you actually don't have sideboard pieces for, and that could very much happen. So it'll be a great test just to see, hey, what does the sideboard really do for us, and what does that, the top 4 DBS Fest will be very interesting.
Pro skill, sideboard, whatever amount of chompas you need to get up to 4.
Yeah.
Because if you have nothing you can side against the deck, side the strategy of hitting them 4 times. Just make it count 4 times. No, don't take that advice. Maybe take that advice. Who knows? I was about to say, that's actually kind of funny. That's the dark side of content creator. Like, once you start getting notable and you are playing, because there are some people that content create but don't really get into the competitive scene. The fact that in the same tournament, George topped with Janemba, and he's a notable player who just played Mill and topped. And in the same tournament, Joey, who is the most prominent content creator, got beat in the last round by Mill. It doesn't even matter what the ramification, like how the match set up. Like, it could have been a fluke, it could have been a hard grind, it could have been an overwhelming victory on the Mill player's part. The fact that Joey's name lost to a Mill player plus George topping with a Mill deck automatically is just going to put Mill in a different light going into Texas.
Yeah.
So we're sorry for that. I'll speak on behalf of all content creators. Sorry for potentially making Mill a bigger ticket on the menu. But yeah, Texas is going to be interesting. But that kind of changed up my things, because I was kind of saying how scary I thought Texas was, and now that George kind of broke it down, I realized that I'm actually really happy that I'm going to Florida, not Texas. Like, I at least got like one more tournament to see like how this pans out and be at my desk like, well, let me take this out of my side deck. Like I have my build for my current deck is very tuned towards Sin. I feel like I have a couple of very popular matchups that are very, very, very much so solid for me. And so I've been trying to tune my main deck to Sin. Now, you don't ever want to get caught lacking, and I guess in a best of one tournament, the one thing that's kind of interesting, a best of one pre-side tournament, you don't really have a main deck. You have a 65 card deck. Like, You are literally, your card, you have a 50 card deck in most cases, but a 65 pool. So changing your main deck doesn't really mean too much, but the whole point is, like, I still have cards in this 65 that are very tilted towards Sin. And if Sin keeps not making them these like top cuts, I don't know if I want to change that, because Sin is a deck where if you get caught lacking against it, there's nothing you can do. But I have like at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are 7 cards in my 65 that are 100% there because Sin is in the format. So we'll see. We will see. It's going to be a very interesting time. If you are going to Texas, you are in the Wild Wild West. If you're going to Miami and not Texas, you will be able to. You're like Metropolis denizens looking over at Gotham, going, "Wow, that's crazy." But whatever, like whatever. That's kind of wild, but whatever. We're in Metropolis. That's kind of how it feels right now. So, all in all, I think it's fairly open. It's not too focused on any way, shape, or form. It's very interesting, in my opinion, that the old decks aren't quite flooding out the format. The new decks, we actually have an equal distribution of old meta, new prospects, and rogue just creeping up out of the woodworks. Yeah. And so some people may love that for the variety. I tend to think that variety is also synonymous with variance in a card game, so I'd rather it be like a core 4 decks and maybe a rogue, maybe 2 rogues. But hey, it is what it is. Everybody has their different opinion on what a good meta is. I just really wanted to talk about these listings, these top decks. The representation is pretty much up. We kind of already saw that UI Goku, at least for day 1, was the most, and followed by Soul Striker, surprisingly. As per usual, no matter how many Soul Strikers are in a tournament, barely any will make top cut. That kind of happened in both days. UI Goku had a severe fall off between day 1 and day 2. I don't know what happened there. I don't know if people just weren't signed up for the same tournaments. I'd assume that if you're just trying to get your Android 17s and your prize cards, you may sign up for both tournaments. But either way, I don't know the full breakdown for Core TCG because they didn't put it out like that. But UI Goku's showing in the first top 16 was 3 versus 0 in the second day. That's kind of wild. King Piccolo was consistent, 2 on both days. Trunks was consistent, had the same showing in both days. Sin Shinron, same thing. Mildex were, kind of in there. Android 16, surprisingly, was in there. Both days. So,
yeah, I mean, Jared Lopez being the pilot helps a lot, but
that is true. That's true. Was he in both? I know he's in day 1.
He was in day 2. I was about to say I wasn't sure if he was day 1, but I saw him day 2. So okay, yeah, there you go.
So I mean, I think it's pretty interesting. No surprises, but we're definitely going to be kind of following up on this coverage. So before I pass it over to just George, I'm just going to say, let us know in the comments your thoughts about the results of these 2 tournaments. Let us know if you thought that other things were going to happen, whether this played out exactly. If you were the master prognosticator and this just happened exactly how you thought it was going to happen, flex in the comments. I may or may not believe you. But look, I have video proof showing that I pretty much called a fair amount of this stuff. I did not foresee mill though. I'm not going to front. When I saw this mill coming up, I was like, nani? But it's actually kind of a no-brainer. So I just had a massive amount of oversight, I guess. But that happens sometimes. There's no sleep gang. But yeah, let us know your thoughts. Like the video, comment, head over to Espira's channel. He's pumping out content too. So far, he's already had a lot more videos preparing you for these best of 1 pre-sides than I have. So if you want to get caught up for the Fest format, you already know where to get the info. You just do. Anything you have to tag on, sir?
Nothing more than just thank you very much for having me on. I love chit-chatting with you about anything. And if you guys like the dynamic between myself and Chris, you guys should definitely check out the Super Combo podcast, available on every single podcasting app. So choose your favorite. And if that doesn't do your fancy, you're already on YouTube. You can check out our video format on my YouTube. So with that, that's really all I got to say. I mean, you're the master when it comes to plugging things there and whatever. So that's all I really got on my end.
Master plugger. I basically, yeah. It's, if you like us going over Dragon Ball Super TCG things, we officially have a fair amount of content for you to go over. And I know personally, I'm going to be trying to do more and more collabs, so you will see more of in the future. We have our weekly podcast, and this is more stuff. So, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the content. Little kind of comprehensive overview of both days together in one video. A little bit of a chunky boy, but hey, you guys are about to go into Tuesday with something, multiple videos, a podcast and this, with, just to digest. So, thank you guys for watching. I will see you the next time you decide to drop by Universe X. Later.
Ciao.